What up, perps? Kid Copious, back on the tube. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, and common sense. Women's History Month is coming up. So let's pick up a book, pick up a website if that's what you can do. Just read a little bit about some of the women in history. See what kind of contributions women had made. You can start with Jacqueline Corcoran. She was a pilot, very interesting subject. But right now, it seems like women are under fire. And, I don't really like that, man. I'm a huge supporter of women's athletics. Watch a lot of women's soccer. Arsenal WFC, that's my team right there. But, enough of me rambling. Let's get the show popping. Yeah. All right, man, I'm going to kick this off with a little, this is more personal kid news right here. 21 Pilots just dropped a new single and new video, Overcompensate, coming off their new album, Clancy. It opens with the lines, "Welcome back to Trench." So if you're a 21 Pilots fan, you haven't seen this yet, catch it. You will get the hype. Man, this is going to go off when they come here live. Oh, man. When they say "Welcome back to Trench," there's a lot of lore with the 21 Pilots albums. And a lot of what they talk about is a world called Dima, controlled by 9 bishops who basically use hypnosis and drugs to keep the citizenry kind of dumb, kind of silent, kind of asleep, if you might, however you would say that. But, that's hopefully what I'm doing here is I'm trying to wake people up. We can have a secure border and a compassionate and equitable immigration policy. We could have abortions in safe streets. We could have gay rights. We could have weed rights. We could have gun rights. We could have all of these things. We don't have to live with red and blue. We can be purple. Let's start out. This is crazy, man. There's actually a video out there. One of the Google workers here was testifying in front of the Austin City Council, trying to go to the city government to force YouTube Music and Google to negotiate with them. They want higher pay, of course. And right in the middle of his speech, a girl comes up and says, "Hey, we've been ordered back to the office to clean out our cubicles." And then city council threw a little salt on the wound and said, "Hey, you're out of time." But, part of what cracks me up about this particular one is that, they're working for YouTube Music. And I'm sure they're getting paid about what I make. I'm sure their benefits are about what I get. And they get to work from home. And now they're in a position where, many of the workers feel that they could lose their homes due to the sudden and unexpected layoff, which some of them believe could be retaliation for standing up today. Well, yeah, if you have a union of 58 people, they just fire all of you. Now, the anarchist in me doesn't like it when corporations do this, but I think every now and then they have to do stuff like this. I mean, what we're seeing here in California with burger flippers at McDonald's making $20 an hour. I mean, it's kind of crazy, some of the concessions that governments and corporations are forced to make right now. So it's kind of funny just to see that. I feel bad for the people who are out of work, but, sometimes, like their spokesperson was saying, they're taking on 2 of the biggest companies in the world, Google and Cognizant. And, sometimes the big corporations bite back. So this is one that really affects me. California Billy Club ban struck down by a court on Second Amendment grounds. I've been jailed for carrying something for self-defense, whether it was a bat or a knife, I didn't have it on me to commit crimes. And basically, what the court said, to give full life to the core right of self-defense, every law-abiding, responsible individual citizen has a constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms like the Billy Club for lawful purposes. And that's what it's about. It's not about possessing it or carrying it. It's about what you do with it. See, what you do with something is more important than just having the item. Lots of people own guns and have never murdered anybody. Lots of people carry self-defense, weaponry to protect themselves, and they don't commit crimes. We're allowed pepper spray. That's not as effective as a billy club to the head. A billy club can be used to disarm a suspect. A billy club alone gives people the confidence that, when they're walking down the street and they're protected, you exude a certain confidence. And the criminals don't want to go after that. The rapists don't want to go after an armed individual. They want to go after somebody who's not paying attention and who's weak. The Second Amendment protects a citizen's right to defend oneself with dangerous and lethal firearms. But not everybody wants to carry a firearm for self-defense. Some prefer less lethal weapons. A billy is a less lethal weapon that may be used for self-defense. Pure and simple. Pure and simple. Here in California, we have coyotes. We have mountain lions. What do you carry for that? Sure, pepper spray is great, but I would prefer, a knife and a billy club. Just saying, and we need to look at a case like this and realize that the government is taking away our rights, and we're not supposed to allow them to do that. I wanted to carry, where I work in random areas. I wanted a collapsible or expandable baton. That's what I wanted. I can't get one in California. Well, that's been overturned. And why is it important? Look at this. A stranger smashes woman over head with baseball bat in Manhattan. That's the kind of randomness that we're dealing with right now. This was a 25-year-old victim who's now, going to have the PTSD, who is going to worry about walking down her hometown where she lives. And Manhattan's a big place. I know it's hard to call that hometown, but that's where people live. And that leads me into something. The politicians want to talk about how crime numbers are going down. It's not the amount of crime that's the problem. It's the type of crime. Smash and grabs in busy malls put all kinds of people at risk. Up in Oakland, people who were filling up their rental cars with gas because they were getting ready to leave town on a plane have their belongings stolen 10 minutes before they leave the city. Everything's gone. Passports, IDs, all of that. That's the kind of crime we worry about. Random homeless people who we pass every day, all of a sudden having a break and just attacking somebody with a baseball bat or trying to rape a woman. Nice neighborhoods, safe places have been invaded by criminals. Maybe there's less. I'm not here to argue whether there's less. It's the type of crime. That's what's got everybody pissed off. Another thing I think that should have people pissed off, Hunter Biden acknowledged Joe was the big guy in $5 million China deal. And he tries to claim, well, that was after my father left office. Okay. I think we could see now that the Biden family is scummy, that they are selling influence. Whether or not that's a crime, I don't want that leading my country. I know that's a big ask to not have corrupt politicians. But if we allow corrupt politicians to fester, we are going to turn into a third world nation. When your enemy shows you their strength, their tactics, you must exploit them. We need to point out some of these things that are going on that are just hypocritical, that are partisan, and that are leading to things being more expensive around the country. New York Attorney General sues world's largest beef producer over methane emissions and climate commitments. So Letitia James, you've heard her name before, is suing JBS over the company's emissions and for greenwashing by allegedly misleading the public about its environmental impact. There's some stats here, but we don't need the stats. As families continue to face the daily impacts of the climate crisis, They are willing to spend more of their hard-earned money on products from brands that are better for the environment, she said. When companies falsely advertise their commitment to sustainability, they are misleading consumers and endangering our planet. Really? Okay, so from what you've said, are you going to sue the EV companies, Tesla, Rivian, Honda, Toyota, all the companies that make electric vehicles? Because that's a whole lie right there. They're not sustainable. They're polluting. There's questions now if an EV can ever overcome the carbon emissions that it takes to make and maintain and generate electricity for. They're out there lying constantly. I mean, should we take it a step further? Joe Biden said he was going to unite the country. That was misleading voters and endanger our country. And he has endangered our country. Where are we going to draw the line on this kind of shit? Are we just going to sit in our little boxes and cheer because this seems like a victory for our side, and then the other people will fight it because it's not our side? This company, JBS, they produce beef. You could say methane and all this. What was that statistic we saw here? Oh, major food commodities and animal agriculture accounts for 14% of global greenhouse. Okay. Net zero pledges for 2030 and 2040 are misleading and not feasible. Okay. So are you going to sue the state of California? Because the state of California has made bold promises that it's not going to be able to live up to. How are you going to judge JBS and not judge California and not judge Tesla? Sorry, Elon, I love you, man, but, you know, that's the truth. You're not allowing them to actually reach their goals or come to the 2030 date. No, you're suing them 6 years before, saying they're not doing enough yet. Really? And when they have to defend themselves, what do you think that's going to do to the price of beef? So she's shitting on poor people to make a point. You know, and she's the same one that was involved with the Trump thing. Trump lied on applications, but he paid back his loans. So, you know, New York is this litigious state now, so Babylon Bee sums it up. New York prosecutes couple for fraud for listing their house for $490,000 when it ultimately sold for $485,000. Is that the world that we want to create, where the government is nitpicking and micromanaging everything? Because they can't even macromanage. Look at the border. Here you go, Biden, with his open border policy. Say her name, Lakeland Riley. She was the girl who died at the University of Georgia at the hands of an illegal alien who should never have been here, who had been deported and had been brought up on charges before. This is last week. Anna Luna here. 5 illegal immigrants have been arrested for raping a woman in Florida, murdering a college student in Georgia, murdering a 2-year-old in Maryland, sexual assault against a minor in Virginia, and raping a 14-year-old girl and stabbing a man in L.A. I'm not sure if that's L.A. or Louisiana. We'll go with Louisiana on that one. Yeah, and you know what? This is the brilliant part of the left's argument now. Well, citizens commit far more crimes than illegal. Yeah. Let's just hold up right there, buddy. The truth of the matter is if you're not supposed to be in this country, those 5 attacks would not have happened. Those 5 perpetrators would not have been in the country. That's the problem. We cannot prevent violence from our citizens, okay? We can't just simply lock people up because we think they might commit a crime. When you come across the border illegally, which is what it is, you've already committed one crime. I don't mind if people come across to try to better their lives. But what we're seeing right now is third world countries dumping prisoners onto our shores. We see China infiltrating our country. We see that whole Middle East, all those fuckwads over there just coming in, saying, "Oh, I'm claiming asylum," and we're going to give them 3 years in our country before they have to actually prove their asylum case. This is not right. This is not what we pay taxes for. Come on. I mean, even if you are a sycophant for Joe Biden, you would never vote Republican. You've got to look at this and realize that this is a problem. This is a problem. Biden visits border to cut ribbon for official border grand opening. I wish that wasn't true. Ballot drop boxes installed along border wall. Yeah, because here we go again. Here we go again. Safe vote. My ass. Biden arrives at border to address his voters. Obviously, these people can't vote right now, but step one is get them in the country. Step two is make them citizens. That's the way it works. I'm purple. I'm not red. I'm not ultra MAGA over here. All right, I'm just calling what I see. And like I always say, I'm that baseball announcer. I mean, guy hit the ball, it went over the wall. I'm going to say home run. Facing low approval, Biden promises to start pretending to care about the border. It was his plan all along. This is his plan. That's what makes it so fucking gross. This was the plan that Biden had. He got into office, immediately opened up the border, immediately rescinded all of Trump's policies, immediately switched to the green agenda, threw our country into a fucking economic spiral, and now covers it up, gets his cronies to cover it up, and gets their cronies to block any attempt to stem the flow. Texas law allowing police to arrest migrants suspected of being in country illegally, blocked by federal judge. And he said that the federal government will suffer grave, irreparable harm if the law took effect, because it might inspire other states to pass their own immigration laws. Really? Okay. SB 4 threatens the fundamental notion that the United States must regulate immigration with one voice, Ezra wrote. Yeah, that one voice is Joe Biden. How is that working out? You have people like the American Civil Liberties Union suing Texas on behalf of immigrants. Americans, civil liberties. These people aren't American. These people will never be American. These people don't want to be American. They want to remain what they are and get whatever money. And we know this. It's out there, okay? They're coming here to beg. They're coming here to essentially steal from our public system. Now, I'm not saying all of them. Enough of them. Of course, Texas is saying that they're being invaded, which a lot of people want to argue with. But when people are just streaming across the border, it's hard to not see it as an invasion. When Venezuelan President Maduro is emptying his prisons across our border, and we know that's what he's doing, that's an invasion, folks. And these are the first steps to civil war. Because why should Texas take this shit? Why should any Americans take this shit? It's one thing what we had before in terms of illegal immigration. What we have now is a flood. Okay? It's an absolute flood, and it's a flood coming at us from all sides. China, Cameroon, Iran, Venezuela. Our compassion is being taken advantage of. And in the case of Lakeland Riley, it cost her her life. Seriously disfigured. That's how bad the attack was. And this guy, like I said earlier, he had unlawfully entered the United States. He was later released on parole for further processing. Then he was arrested again for acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17 years old in New York City. He was also cited for shoplifting. Okay, shoplifting, maybe not a big crime. These are people in the country illegally. These are the people who should be on their best behavior, and we should hold them to their best behavior. But then you have idiots like Katy Porter says, one instance of murder shouldn't shape U.S. immigration policy after nursing student killed. Yeah, okay. It's not one instance. All right? And there is no policy. The policy is catch and release. The White House said, of course, that they extend their deepest condolences to the family of Lake and Hope Riley. People should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law if they are found to be guilty. Okay, well, Joe, you're guilty of this. This is blood on your hands because you're not doing anything to stop it. If you were trying to make the border tighter, if you were trying to dissuade people from just flying in, literally flying in from around the world, you would have some credibility. But you've kicked open the southern border. You've kicked open the northern border. You're allowing these people to get captured and then released on a promise to appear. You're not taking the border seriously, and therefore, the blood is on your hands. And what is the border czar doing? Well, the border czar is figuring out how we can use taxpayer funds to pay people to register voters. And right off the bat, Kamala Harris praises nonpartisan poll worker, immediately backfires. Look who these people are. So she's talking about our democracy cannot function without nonpartisan poll workers like Vasu and Rob. Well, who are these people? Vasu? He is a staffer at the Left-Wing Alliance for Justice, formerly of the ACLU, Georgia. That's not nonpartisan. The other guy, I don't remember what the heck he was, but he did something too. You know how it goes here. One of the users on X, Kamala, it's posts like this that destroy your credibility. If your staff cannot vet these properly before posting, you need to fire them. We will always fact check and investigate all claims like this. Yeah, they weren't. They weren't nonpartisan. If you live in LA, please get out and vote. Vote against Gascon. We're in a much better place today than we were 4 years ago. No, we're not. We are seeing an escalation of attacks by homeless people, and we are seeing smash and grabs in busy shopping malls. That was not happening at the rate that they are now 4 years ago. Oakland had an In-N-Out 4 years ago. I know Gascon's not over the part of Oakland, but Gascon and his cronies with their policies led to what happened in Oakland. LA's spread out enough that it seems like maybe we don't take that one big hit that implodes the city. But property crime, smash and grabs, this is what I was talking about, homeless encampments. Some people believe Gascon favors criminals over victims. We know he does. He doesn't send his people to parole hearings. He doesn't meet with victims. And while we're on this little clip right here, the homeless encampments, whether or not a crime is committed out of these homeless encampments, imagine what it must be like to live next to some of these, to walk past some of these, to send your kids to school biking or walking past these encampments that are festering pustules of crazy and drug addicted and people who are off the grid and they don't give a fuck what they have to do to get money. And Gascon goes on to say people may now be going away for 5, 10, 15 years ago, or 15, 20 years, as opposed to 30, 40, and 50, but they're in prison. Really? Yeah. Even if you're of the belief that I was wrong in that approach, you're going to have to wait several years to see how that plays out. No, we don't. We already see how it plays out. You catch and release. We've had people who have had three arrests in one day. Car thief in Glendora. They catch and release, he steals a car. Catch and release, steals a car. Catch and release, steals a car. I mean, we know these are failures, man. Putting the criminal first is never going to work because they're going to take advantage of it. It's a lovely sentiment, Gascon, but it's pie in the sky, man. Maybe the Attorney General of New York should fucking sue Gascon for misleading people. I don't know. But right now there's like 11 people running for his spot because 51% of voters disapprove of the job Gascon is doing. And then you got to figure some of the people who were asked that question had no opinion. And a lot of them just simply lied because we have been conditioned to lie for our side. I'm purple. See, I'm purple. I don't have a side in this. Gascon's wrong. That's all. Period. But what is he worried about here? The issues of over-incarceration, issues of equity within the system. Then he says what I think sums it up so well. That creates a certain level of anxiety for some people. People replace that with criminals. And for some criminals, it creates an opportunity. He says it. Very few of these people take the opportunity that's given. Look at Portland with their drug laws. Very few people taking advantage of what's being offered. Biden's proposal for boys and girls sports breaks UN obligations, rapporteur says, as injuries climb. This is a human rights expert, female, with the UN. And she's talking about destroying Title IX. And she says right here, Reem Asalem, whose purview is violence against women and girls, its causes and consequences, warned the U.S. government that planned changes to Title IX regulations would result in unfair treatment and unlawful and extreme forms of discrimination against most women and girls on the basis of female sex. Pretty plain. The changes could endanger U.S.'s compliance with international human rights laws. This is, I'm not one, I don't like the UN, okay? But Asalem is a veteran of UN human rights and refugee work. She is an expert and she deserves my respect. I'm going to listen to her words, not just because they support my point, but because she's saying them and she has the qualifications. Whether this is true or not, the advantages given by puberty are not undone by testosterone suppression. Historically, the sex differences in athletic performance are larger than what can be accounted for by physiological and anatomical factors, particularly among low-ranked athletes. Much of our concern is about intimate spaces. And that's part of what we've seen. When ostensibly these biological male athletes go into the women's locker room, how do the women feel? They experience a loss of dignity, anxiety, stress, humiliation, embarrassment, apprehension, and distress, especially as they attend to menstruation and feminine hygiene needs. The risk increases for sexual harassment, voyeurism, physical and sexual assault by persistent sex offenders who will abuse co-ed access. 20 years ago, this wasn't such a big deal because there was a certain level of trust that if a man had transitioned into a woman, he was serious because he was risking life and limb, literally risking life and limb to do that. Now it's a casual thing. It's a self-identification thing. It's an exploitable situation. And Asalam sees that. This leads to a greater risk of injury, but also self-exclusion to avoid injury. And then she brings up the point that nobody's talked about. When males are allowed to box, wrestle, pin, shove, or strike at female athletes on the playing field, toleration of such behavior off the pitch is likely to follow. I love that she says pitch. That's so British. That's the problem. When you allow it in athletics, it trickles down to society. These are the attacks on women. I wish there was a solution. An open category. It's about the only thing you can do. But much like the two-state Palestinian-Israel solution, this won't work if one side is not going to see the problem for what it is. It's not about discriminating against trans athletes. It's about the effects it has on women. And it's about giving priority to one person's rights over the rights of the group. And that's a real slippery slope. And it comes from people who are monsters. Riley Gaines, you love her or hate her, but she brought this up. This protester brought a shark-stuffed animal to mock Bethany Hamilton, who lost her arm to a shark. Miserable, insufferable people, but oh, so tolerant. The most liberal person I know is also the least tolerant person. Believes that he has all the answers, that everybody else is stupid, and that it's fine to be as ugly as you want because Republican. Riley Gaines knows what the actual effects are on women. And when she speaks out against it, she's heckled. Those people who were screaming about trans rights brought a shark-stuffed animal to mock Bethany Hamilton. That's pretty fucking gross, man. I wouldn't tolerate it from any side. But before I go, I found something. A couple things that were very interesting here. If you find someone smarter than you, work with them. Don't compete. Competition is a weakness. That's right. Listen. Try to listen to people who have maybe been on this planet a little longer. Maybe just listen, even if you don't change your mind. Maybe you could learn something. Maybe you could see why your approach or your end result isn't the right end result. But most importantly, what I found in this post was number 4. The family you create is more important than the family you come from. There are a lot of people out there, young people, old people, who are ostracized from their family because of their sexuality, whether it's being gay or a lesbian or trans or non-binary. This is the kind of shit that we need to overcome. All right? But more importantly, this is how you live your life, regardless of those things. The family you create is more important than the family you come from. So create that family. Find people, find communities. Unfortunately, sometimes the family that people create is quite gross. We see that in the incel community, or the far left or the far right. But Purple State is a family. And that's what's important. That we recognize that if we band together, we can demand the good things from the right and the good things from the left. We can get closer to a utopia than red or blue. Because they're not willing to compromise. They're not willing to do the hard work. They're willing to just say yes to every crazy idea that pops forth. We have to be smarter with the world we are creating. But you know, right now, my mom's in a care home. I was adopted. So number 4 here, the family you create is more important than the family you come from. It really resonates. Right now, my mom's not doing well. I would appreciate your prayers. I love you guys so much, man. If you're watching this, man, just know that, like, there's one person in this ugly fucking world that really cares about you. And that's Kid Copious. I'm Purple State Party. And so are you. Love one another. Drink your water. Try not to be stupid. And when the chips get you down, dance it out.